ladies and gentlemen, we are on a roll when it comes to doing reaction after reaction after reaction, because let's just be real about this. A number of things that I actually do want to react because I am a current affairs person, okay? So it doesn't entirely count me out as someone who is America-centric, okay? There are still things that I definitely like to know about the Philippines, what is happening around, and the most recent news that at least that I have is the emergency, the state of emergency due to energy, okay? So we're just going to be watching the address that President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. had given March 25, and as it comes out at this time, it should be 2 days ago, 2 days old by now. So yes, ladies and gents, we are actually at this point, we are actually going to even watch some speeches because hey, that's how we roll sometimes. That's just how it is, I guess. Well, that's just one thing we got to actually check things out, I guess. I know I got to do more shorts, highlights, and stuff like that, but whatever. If it's not always a thing for you guys when it comes to long form videos, I'd rather use some good stuff like shorts videos for making sure that everyone's at least gotten a real summarized idea of what to expect on videos. Anyways, this is the presidential address on protecting Filipino families and global oil price increases. Amid global oil price increases. You know what? Let's just get to it already. This is from the Malacanang Palace. I think it starts at around, okay.
Sa inyo lahat.
Okay.
Sa inyo lahat. Magandang hapon sa
This was done in the afternoon, actually.
nagsusubaybay sa ating ngayon. Nandito po tayo upang makapagbigay ako ng karagdagang report tungkol sa mga ginagawa ng ating pamahalaan sa harap ng hamon ng nangyayari dahil sa gera sa gitnang silangan. At kasabay niyan, dahil nagkagera, dahil nasara nga yung tinatawag na Straits of Hormuz at makadaan, ang mga barko na nagdadala ng langis, lalong-lalo na dito sa Asia, ay nagtaasan ang presyo ng petrolyo.
Did you guys know that the Philippines apparently receives 98% of their oil and gas from the Middle East? Apparently, this is why the energy emergency was actually called, because we don't buy from other sources other than the Middle East for the most part, okay? And now that we are in an emergency situation, we can actually buy from other sources like Russia. I might not like Russia, but when we get desperate, we get desperate. Principle has nothing to do with this. It's just survival, okay? Look, war is ugly, all right? Especially if the war is absolutely misplaced and it cannot actually just... Oh my God. All because the United States and Israel just go right at it, okay? It's just immature. Their strategy, absolutely immature. Their pacing is all kinds of wrong. There's no other way to actually say it. The timing is actually bad, all right?
At lahat ng produkto ng petrolyo. Kaya kailangan natin, mula nung nagsimula ito, 28 February, the next day, nagmi-meeting na. Sinimula na namin, sabi namin, tiyak ito.
Starting day one, they were already looking at this.
Sabi namin, hanggat may gera, itong presyo ng langis ay mananatiling mataas. Kaya mahihirapan ngayon ang taong bayan dahil
if oil prices are high, so will gas, so will transportation, so will food. They all will follow eventually. That's how it is if we keep using our supply.
Alam naman natin, pag tumaas ang presyo ng langis, ay malaking perwisyo sa ating mga kababayan. At sa lahat ng bagay, kaya gumawa kami ng plano kung ano ang mga kailangan gawin upang pagaangin naman ang epekto sa pang-araw-araw na buhay ng ating mga kababayan. Kaya siguran ko sa mga bagay dahil although meron tayong mga report, nakita naman ninyo nung ako ay pumunta sa PITX sa terminal para
transport terminals. Please, some discounts will be applied, okay? Some, not every.
Upang naman hindi naman masyadong itataas ang pamasahe. At nakapagbigay na rin tayo sa mga transport workers ng mga tulong. At kaya para makumpleto lamang ang kaalaman ng ating mga kababayan, kaya ako nandito upang ma-report sa inyo lahat kung ano na ang aming ginagawa. Ang nagawa na natin, unang-una, ang una naming na pinag-aalala ay ang ating mga OFW.
All overseas Filipino workers are going to be affected by this. I think when it comes to transferring money, it's going to actually increase as well, especially if they're actually providing for families back home. So yeah, makes sense. And then there's the possibility that they won't be able to travel to the Philippines because let's just be real, for inbound to the Philippines from anywhere is going to cost anyone, even if they're not tourists, it's going to cost anyone a shit ton. Okay? Inbound to Philippine flights. Okay? Inbound to Philippines. It's going to cost tourists or dual citizens a shit ton just to get back to the Philippines. All right?
Dahil talaga sila, nasa lugar sila ng gera mismo. Kaya delikado ang kanilang seguridad. At
Yep, some Filipinos are actually in closer proximity to war zones because we are everywhere, guys. Israel, okay, we're also in the Middle East as well. I mean, we didn't stay indoors. Some of us didn't stay indoors for nothing and took pictures for nothing. But let's just be real. Some Middle Eastern countries are a bit sensitive when it comes to attacks from Iran. Okay, so they're being told to throttle down any updates in relation to missile attacks. All right.
delikado ang kanilang buhay. Hindi lang ang kanilang hanap buhay, pati mismo ang buhay nila. Kaya mabuti na lang at maganda ang relasyon natin sa mga Middle East countries kung saan nandoon ang karamihan ng Pilipinong ito nagtatrabaho. Mabuti na lang at magandang relasyon natin at kinakaibigan natin silang lahat at very appreciative sila ang mga host countries sa ating mga workers dahil nga sinasabi nila napakagaling at napakaganda.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the only thing that we can do is just provide service to make absolutely sure that everyone's needs are met, are fulfilled, okay? So yeah, it's not just the surface level stuff that you actually have to look at when it comes to overseas Filipino workers, by the way. Even to verify some stuff, give me a moment here. Oh boy, I thought right. While the vast majority of overseas Filipino workers are employed in sectors like domestic service, nursing, and maritime, a significant number of Filipinos, particularly women, work in international nightlife and entertainment industries that can overlap with red light districts. These workers often face unique vulnerabilities related to labor exploitation and human trafficking. Basically, they work in hostess clubs and night bars. They work as nightlife performers. They also work as, oh my God. When you're desperate as a woman, I don't blame them, but they get vulnerable this way too. Oh, God. And then there's human trafficking. Workers may be promised jobs as domestic helpers, waitresses, or singers, but are instead forced into prostitution or stripping upon arrival. Oh, God damn it. Oh, God damn it. Of course, this is how it is. Primary motivation is high earning potential compared to domestic jobs. Some virtual or tourism-based sex work can earn individuals significantly more than traditional employment. More of these cases have to be investigated, guys. While I like that there are options for women to actually work in these cases, it's not entirely safe. It is not entirely safe. There are legal assistance funds that prevent the Department of Migrant Workers that actually fight against these cases, illegal recruitment and trafficking cases. And there are also advocacy groups, organizations like the BLAS, Initial F, OPLE Policy Center, and the Philippine Sex Workers Collective, as they work to protect workers' rights and advocate for better legal protections. Well, we're at this point that if you can't look for a domestic job that's actually safe, there are also options to get you in the most vulnerable of jobs, the red light industry, which is actually sad when it comes to opportunities.
Nakipag-ugnayan tayo sa kanila kagad at tiniyak sa atin na ang seguridad ng ating mga OFW ay kanilang binabantayan at tinitiyak nila na ang ating mga OFW ay hindi malagay sa alanganin.
Our OFWs are made sure that they are not being put in danger, basically.
Kahit na sa lahat ng ating nagawa, nung ilang araw pa lang, nagkaroon tayo ng casualty sa Israel dahil kagaya nung nangyari.
One of us got killed in Israel, guys.
Sila ay tumutulong sa kanilang alaga, sa kakatulong sa kanilang alaga na abutan ng bomba at
Shit.
sa bomb shelter. Nabuhay yung caregiver na nasawi naman ang caregiver na Pilipina. So yun ang una nating naging casualty. At patuloy naman ang aming ugnayan at para sinasabi, kasi marami nagpaplano, pwede kami, lulusot kami, aalis kami. At sinabi ko kagad sa kanila, wag muna, dahil hindi natin alam ang sitwasyon.
If Rodrigo Duterte were still president, if he actually was allowed to actually go into office again, contrary to what the Constitution allows, okay? Apparently, there are comparisons in regards to the views of escaping war zones. Rodrigo Robo Duterte, you know what he said? I actually watched this from a video. He said that you can steal a plane and leave that area at any time. You will not be judged. You will not be pursued. I believe at first glance and upon the first time I heard it, it's absolutely reckless because the plane that you steal off a battlefield can still be perceived as a threat. And there's a possibility that you can actually get shot down. So I consider that as reckless and unplanned. All right? Look, okay? I'll take the safer route any day. Not Duterte's idea. No way.
Makinig tayo sa mga local authorities, yung mga tiga doon, ang mga pamahalaan nila. At magtanong tayo, kailan ba safe na makalabas? Kailan ba lilipad ulit ang mga eroplano? Kailan ba kami makapag-charter ng eroplano upang maiuwi ang aming mga kababayan na nagnanais umuwi? At sa
It'll take a while before OFWs will be able to just go home straight from direct conflict zones.
nagnanais umuwi. Meron pa rin talaga na sinasabi na hindi naman daw nila, ang pakiramdam naman nila, safe naman daw sila. At nasa sa kanila yun. Ngunit yung mga iba ay talagang naririnig na raw yung bomba. Doon malapit doon sa kanila.
Oh boy, close proximity.
Yung mga nakausap ko,
Damn.
yung mga nakauwi, ganun na nga. Ang nakakaawa, yung mga mas may edad na, lalong-lalo na yung mga maliliit na bata. Dahil siyempre, kahit anong mangyari, nakakatrauma yun. Ang mahirap sa bata, kahit tayo kaya natin maintindihan kung ano yung nangyayari. Kaya natin ipaliwanag. This is what's happening. May gera dahil sa ganito. Sa pagbata, ang hirap may paliwanag.
Yes, it's really hard with that one.
So this is the problem that we were facing. So this was the initial problem, and this is the first concern that we addressed. And since that time that we have set up the systems for repatriation, we have already nakauwi na ang mahigit 2,000 OFW.
2,000 OFWs ever since the initial days of the conflict. 2,000 OFWs were able to actually leave the dangerous zones since then.
Mahigit 16,000 na ang nakatanggap ng tulong. Ito ay sa
60,000.
pagkain, ng tirahan, medical care,
Just give me a moment.
transportasyon, financial support. Ito ang mga nakauwi, meron din tayong ibinibigay doon sa ating mga kababayan na nandoon pa rin at nangangailangan ng ating tulong. At hindi natin ititigil ito. Patuloy ito ang ating pagpauwi ng ating mga kababayan at
16,660 OFWs. Okay.
At ito hindi lamang galing sa isang lugar, kung hindi pinupuntahan ito sa iba't ibang bansa, nagkikita-kita sila sa isang lugar, sabay sasakay ng eroplano bago iuwi dito sa Pilipinas.
Okay.
Tuloy natin yung ginagawa ito at hindi pa kumpleto sa 2,000 na naiuwi natin. Kulang pa, meron pang mga gustong umuwi pa. At sila naman ay ginagawa namin ng paraan upang umuwi. Ang
649 are still awaiting repatriation as of this time. Oh shit.
ang pag-charter ng eroplano at saka ang paglipat kahit yung by land, yun na nga, nung ilang unang araw, sinabi ko sa kanila, huwag kayong basta't magsasarili. Dahil kung mag-convoy kayo, pag nasa taas nasa 10,000 feet yung eroplano, hindi nila malaman kung yung ba ay mga militar o yung ba ay civilian.
Yeah. Don't convoy.
Problema, misencounter kung tawagin.
Yeah. We don't want any bad encounters to mislabel civilian aircraft as military aircraft. So yeah, that actually makes sense. Do not put planes in convoy just because there are civilians being told to evacuate in those planes. Basically, don't put them at convoys. But at the same time, the situation's still desperate. Okay. Hopefully, I don't hear any incidences about stampedes. If there were actually incidences about stampedes, goddamn.
Kaya't ngayon, tinitiyak natin na lahat ng movement ay cleared by the local authorities para lahat sila ay maging safe. At ito ay patuloy natin ginagawa. We are chartering flights. We started with 1 a week. I'll start to accelerate that to 2 a week. Depende talaga kung kailan nila sasabihin sa atin na maaari na magpalipad. Meron iba dyan na sumasakay sa commercial.
Okay.
Meron yung iba, sinasakyan yung ating mga chartered na aeroplano. And we will continue to do this until the war ends or until we have repatriated all of our nationals back home here to the Philippines. Then, and now the next part of the challenge that we were facing was the supply and the pricing of petroleum products.
Because let's just be real, the Strait of Hormuz being closed, it causes crude supplies to slowly deplete itself from different parts of the world, right? Because of the immature thing that actually happened in regards to the Middle East conflict right now. Basically, 1 liter here in Metro Manila, okay? 1 liter, whether that's diesel or petroleum, we are seeing it peak so far to the 3 digits. Yes, we are seeing it now reach hundreds, okay? It's just the first 100, all right? We're not up to the high numbers yet. We're not up to the high figures yet. But if it gets worse, we're screwed. We're screwed as commuters. We are screwed as drivers. We're basically being screwed just because gas prices are expensive, hella too expensive. So it affects everyone around the world, the Philippines most especially, because we chose to host and sponsor Israel as a friend, okay? We didn't think for once that Israel would be capable of actually making humongous mistakes, such as actually starting a military operation, which eventually turned into war. We didn't think it would happen. All right, guys, we live in a crazy world right now. Let's just accept this.
Kaya ang una naming tiniyak, unang tanong ko sa Department of Energy,
My first question is on the Department of Energy.
sa Department of Energy, ano ba ang stock natin?
What's our available stock?
Gasolina, ng kerosene, ng jet fuel. At ito ay binigay sa atin. Marami sa inyo ay nakita naman ninyo yung unang report kung ilan ang supply natin. Ang instruction ko sa kanila, huwag yung titigilan. Maghanap kayo pa ng supply dahil hindi natin alam kung gaano katagal pa to. Pag nasasabihin natin, we are talking about 45 days on average.
You know, whatever happened to our natural gas well that we have here? Give me a moment here, guys. It cannot be used. This is what it's called, the Malampaya East 1 Reservoir. That's the name of the natural gas well. This reservoir was confirmed as a major discovery in January 2026, but it is still in the development phase and is not expected to deliver first gas until the end of 2026. Basically, at the moment, we are screwed, at least until the war winds down or the reservoir gets expedited for use. But let's just be real, there's also news recently that the Strait of Hormuz is only going to open for ships not directly linked to the United States and Israel. So basically, the Philippines is going to get its supply. It's just going to take some time. It will take roughly a month to transfer the oil back to the Philippines, considering everything that's actually happening. All right? The Strait of Hormuz is opening its openness, all right, at the moment. But let's not be slacking when it comes to our preparedness, all right? At any time, we are still going to continuously lose supply, and it's bad for us, all right? The Philippines is currently grappling with a severe energy crisis triggered by the conflict involving Iran, the United States, and Israel. Now, because of that, the National Energy Emergency had been declared, which is Executive Order 110. Now, the country currently has 45 days of fuel reserves left as of late March 2026. Because the new gas well isn't ready, the government has authorized the temporary use of dirtier but cheaper fuels and intensified energy conservation efforts to cope with the import shortages caused by the Middle East war. As a net importer of petroleum, the Philippines is highly sensitive to disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz, as a critical choke point now impacted by the Iran conflict. So we can't get anything from the Malampaya East 1 reservoir until the fourth quarter of 2026. Our primary goal is long-term energy security, and we can't do that without the gas well. And right now, we are on survival mode and we are trying to stabilize our prices, but even that's not going well. Okay? So basically, we cannot use our gas well yet. Us Filipinos are screwed, bro.
More or less. Pero hindi natin alam how long this will last, how long the supply is going to be diminished or from the Straits of Hormuz. So our authorities are all continuing to find new sources for the supply. First of all, what we tried to do was to ensure that the contracts that we already had would be honored. Halimbawa, may kontrata tayo na mag-import tayo ng ilang bariles ng langis, ng diesel, ng kung ano. Kung ito ba, ay tiyakin natin na patuloy na makakarating talaga ito sa Pilipinas. Nung unang ilang araw, lahat ng hindi kami supplier natin ng oil and products.
Basically, there's no solid answer from oil suppliers because the Strait of Hormuz is being limited of access at that time. Severely limiting access. All right? So I checked around. As of March 26, 2026, the Strait of Hormuz is currently in a state of de facto closure for general international shipping, but Iran has recently declared it open in a limited sense to non-hostile nations. While the Philippines has not been explicitly named on Iran's friendly list, which includes India, China, and Russia, it may technically qualify for passage under the non-hostile criteria. The Philippines, in the general sense, is not hostile to Iran, so I think we're included in this, but it's still not clear at the moment. Now, Iran's Ministry of Foreign Affairs stated that the strait is open to vessels from countries that neither participate nor support acts of aggression against Iran. Passage requires prior coordination with Iranian authorities and strict compliance with their safety regulations. Now, our defense secretary has called for the immediate reopening of the strait, citing an energy emergency in the Philippines due to the blockade. The Philippine government has admitted it lacks the naval capacity to escort its own tankers through the high-risk zone. The Department of Migrant Workers has designated the Strait of Hormuz a warlike operations area. Over 6,000 Filipino seafarers are currently reported as stranded in the vicinity, and they have been granted the legal right to refuse sailing into these waters without penalty. Despite Iran's open claim, major shipping companies and insurers consider the area a de facto no-go zone due to a high risk of missile and drone attacks. Most vessels are currently rerouting around Africa to avoid the bottleneck. Basically, this is going to make massive delays. Instead of just taking 1 month for the oil to actually reach our shores, it could take 2 or more, which is bad.
Dahil hindi rin nila alam kung ano yung nangyayari. At yun na nga, pati yung presyo, hindi nila maibigay.
That's right, yeah.
Ngunit dahan-dahan sa patuloy na ating pagtatawag, sa patuloy sa ating pag-ugnay sa kanila at gumawa tayo ng mga bagong sistema para makarating ang langis dito, ay tutuloy naman, nasupplyan tayo. And we are not stopping. Although the average now is running at 45 days supply, siyempre iba-iba, but the average is 45 days. Hindi natin tinitigilan. And again, I credit the success of this ensuring the supply to the good relations that we have with our partner countries around the world.
Yep.
And we have not only gone to our oil suppliers, the traditional oil suppliers, we have tried to explore other sources that are not affected by the war that is ongoing in the Middle East. And it would be premature to say that we have perfected contracts with them, but I think it's sufficient to say that the things are beginning to open up.
But it's opening up very slowly, Mr. Marcos Jr.
Sure, right now of the supply, we can be sure that at least for 45 days we will be all right. I think that we can be fairly confident. We can be confident that after the 45 days, we will still have already arrived here in the Philippines. We will have already a flow of oil, not just one delivery, not just 2 deliveries, but a flow of petroleum and petroleum-related products. Right now, because of the situation, lahat hinihingi natin. Humihingi tayo ng crude oil.
Yep, because it's already an emergency, the Philippines is now attempting to buy from different sources, not just from the Middle East, okay? So we're checking out Russian oil. As much as I like that idea, god damn it. We are desperate, guys. Really desperate.
We're asking if we can find it dahil meron naman tayong refinery. Andyan naman ang petrol that can refine it. Gasolina, diesel siyang pinaka-importante para dito sa Pilipinas. At ang jet fuel, kerosene at saka jet fuel para tuloy ang lipad ng mga eroplano. So we are continuing to do this. We will not stop. We will not stop this process so that we will ensure the supply of petroleum and petroleum products to the Philippines. And right now, I'm very confident in saying that we have sufficient supply. We will continue to source those supplies. And I do not think that there is a problem. Sa aming analysis, wala tayong problema para sa supply ng petrolyo at saka ng mga petroleum products. Ang isang napakalaking nangyari ay ang pagtaas ng presyo ng langis. At ito talagang mahirap natin sagutin at gawan ng paraan dahil wala tayong control dyan. Oil will do what it will do. The markets will behave in the way that they behave. No one, not even the producers have control over the world price of oil.
True.
All that we can do is to compensate our people and to support our people so that they have some assistance in the face of this. Ang ating nagpatupad tayo ng mga ilang inisyatibo upang matulungan ang ating mga kababayan. Para sa lahat ng na sumasakay sa mga transport system natin, nagbigay tayo ng libreng sakay. Meron tayong 50% na discount sa LRT2 at MRT3.
At least there are discounts already.
Binawasan na rin
For commuters too.
ang terminal at aeronautical fee para maging mas mura ang pamasahe sa eroplano. Para naman sa ating mga tsuper, namamahagi tayo ng cash assistance sa 120,000 na tricycle driver at TNVS drivers. Nagbigay din tayo ng toll discount para sa mga jeepney, para sa mga bus, at para sa mga truck. Para naman sa pagkain, dahil siyempre inaalala din natin na wag sumabay ang presyuhan ng pagkain, ay pinalawak natin ang 20 peso rice program sa 627 centers na binuksan natin na nakabukas sa buong bansa. At kasama dyan,
So there's 20 per kilo rice now as well. We're going to make use of that. We're going to make use of that considering that there is now a major emergency that really compromises our energy supply. About time we make use of this.
bukas ang mga kadiwa para sa makabili naman yung mga nangangailangan ng murang bilihin ng pagkain. At patuloy din ang ating ibinibigay sa ating mga magsasaka ang fuel at fertilizer subsidies para sa magsasaka at para sa mga mangingisda, para hindi ipasa yung pagtaas ng presyo ng kanilang ginagamit na krudo, hindi mapasa lahat sa mga consumer. At sumagot na ang ating mga manufacturer na hindi sila magtataas ng presyo ng pangunahing bilihin sa ngayon. At
So ngayon, yeah, so for now, they will not raise the prices of our manufacturers are making. Basically, the food, not yet. But, oh shit, it's going to change. The longer the conflicts keep happening.
nanangako naman sila hanggat kaya nila na i-maintain ang presyo. Kasi ang pinagbibili ngayon nila, yung nasa inventaryo na nila, na nabili nila ng mura pa bago pa nangyari lahat ito. Kaya habang nandyan ang kanilang inventaryo, nangako sila na hindi nila itataas ang presyo ng mga primary commodities. Magsisimula na rin magbigay ang ating mga LGU ng libreng bigas. Ito ay nagsimula, yung LGSF program ito, nagsimula ito bago pa nagkagera. Pero i-roll out ito within the next week or two. So ginamit natin dyan ang LGSF, the Local Government Support Fund. Diniretso natin sa ating mga local government para sila na ang magbibigay ng tulong. Ang ating ang programang ito ay nagbibigay tayo sa bawat LGU ng pondo at ang
To hear any the local government funds being misused or being mishandled to the point that, yeah, we as Filipinos don't have the best track record when it comes to keeping our funds secure and keeping ourselves accountable. There are opportunists in the political game, there are opportunists in the government game who have been taking advantage of our own funds, which is very, very bracking to me because we keep allowing these opportunists to enrich themselves. We keep on emphasizing that our CEOs and our corporation can do so much more, but in truth, they can only profit, while us low-class people get the burning end of the stick. It's just, I hate that reality. I just hate that reality.
hinihingi lang namin sa kanila na minimum 50% ng LGSF fund na natatanggap nila ay gawing pambili ng bigas para maipamigay sa kanilang mga constituent. Maaari nilang gawin 100% na bigas, nasa sa kanila yon. Ngunit kailangan at the minimum 50% doon sa natanggap nilang pondo ay gagamitin sa pagbili at pagbigay ng bigas.
Yep, okay.
Sa supply naman ng fertilizer, dahil sa urea is a petroleum product. So that is a refined product na nanggagaling sa petrolyo din. Tuloy-tuloy, yung mga nagsusupply sa atin, nakikipag-usap din tayo. At tinitiyak natin na meron tayong fertilizer supply. At gumagawa nga tayo ng mga pamamaraan at mga kontrata para tiyakin na meron tayong sapat na fertilizer supply. Ang report sa akin ng Department of Agriculture, as of today, we have sufficient fertilizer supply for the next planting. So at least until the next planting, we have the sufficient amount of urea and potash. So those are the main fertilizers that we are using. Para naman sa agricultural products, dahil nga inaalala natin
Agricultural products.
ang pagkain,
Yep.
para naman sa agricultural products, piso na lang ang RoRo terminal fee para sa mga truck at sasakyang nagdadala ng mga agricultural products.
Oh, they're giving a big discount for those transporting. That's a huge deal. It should be like that so that we can actually receive our goods immediately. So that's right. That's right.
Nakipag-ugnayan din tayo sa Kongreso upang mabawasan at alisin na ang excise tax sa langis. Yung batas na hiningi natin sa unang-una. Natapos na ang kanilang pag-aaral doon sa batas na yan at nasa amin na at siguro by the end of today, I will be able to sign that into law already. Ngayon, titignan ngayon natin kailan ang pinakamagandang oras, when is the best time to use that new authority. Because there are conditions within the law that have to be satisfied. But nonetheless, we are trying to determine Because ang mahirap talaga dito is pabago-bago ang presyo. Alam
Yes, fluctuating prices on those goods too.
ninyo lahat, pagising nyo sa umaga, iba na naman ang presyo. May pronouncement na nanggaling sa US, bababa ang presyo. Tapos mamaya ng konti, tataas na naman. Mahirap talaga magplano. But that's why we are going, and that's why we have been trying to find the optimum levels in terms of support, in terms of the suspension of some of the charges that the government exacts from especially from food products. And ito lahat ito ay ginawa na natin since as I said, day one na lang pala nung nabalitaan namin nagbomba. Ang una naming inalala ang ating mga OFW. Miniting ko na ang OWA, miniting ko na ang Department of Migrant Workers, kinausap ng DFA ang ating mga embassy.
It's a good thing, at least all Philippine officials, even the president, are actually moving into this too. If we haven't been doing anything, basically we would be shooting ourselves in the foot.
Hindi naman sumunod doon sa world price ng petrolyo.
Call any government what it is, especially with the flaws, but the worst they can do is ignore all circumstances in relation to a stable economy. Basically, whatever makes us survival mode should make us absolutely alert.
Ngayon, nabalitaan na nasa balita na kahapon na deklara kami ng energy emergency. And dahil nakikita nga
Executive Order 110.
nangyari dito sa gera sa Middle East at ang ruta ng supply ng langis sa buong mundo ay naapektuhan. Ang Straits of Hormuz, madalas nyo ngayon marinig ang Straits of Hormuz. At yung kung tingnan ninyo sa mapa, doon dumadaan ang mga langis ng more or less 20% ng lahat ng world supply ng oil products. Dahil oil products
20% goes through there, while the Philippines receives 98% of its oil from the strait.
langis sa Straits of Hormuz papunta rito sa Asia. Kaya't ang Asia, sa pagsara ng Straits of Hormuz, ang Asia ang pinakamabigat ang tama. Tayo, bilang wala tayong langis at karamihan, halos lahat ng langis ay ating ini-import at karamihan dyan ay doon galing. Kailangan natin maghanda kung ito ay lalala pa at tatagal pa.
Yeah.
Malinaw ang salitang ginamit natin, energy emergency. Hindi ito emergency ng pangkalahatan. It is a very specific and a very precise emergency. It is an emergency of the energy sector, the supply of energy, and the prices of energy. Dahil ang pinagmulan ng problema ay ang supply at ang presyo ng enerhiya. At yun ang kailangan naming tugunan ng direkta agad.
Yep.
That is why it is declared not a general state of emergency, but a state of energy emergency. I'd like to stress that point, that it is the energy sector that we need to declare as an emergency sector because of the war in the Middle East. I want to assure everyone that this does not mean that we should panic. It means that we are doing everything that we can to assess and to alleviate the situation. It is a precautionary tool so that we are ready for whatever comes next. Because lahat ng kaya natin, all the options that have been available to us, we are now exercising in terms of the subsidies, fuels, cuts in fees in our ports, cuts in charges, and again the continued workings of our government to talk to other governments and to talk to even the private sector. The private sector partners have a lot to play, a big role to play in all of this. We have done all of those things all those options that have been available to us. The reason that I declared an energy emergency is to provide government with more options should the need arise. Binibigyan ang ating pamahalaan ang mga kapangyarihan kumilos ng mas mabilis, bumili ng langis ng hindi na kailangan na dumaan pa sa matagal na proseso at pagsamahin ang lahat ng ahensya sa isang direksyon. We are
desperate then.
are the authorities and the powers that we might need in the future and we would like to have available to us. Nakikipag-ugnayan din tayo sa Kongreso. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong page. Itinatag ng EO 110, which is the executive order that I signed yesterday, ang uplift. Ito ang aming unified command na aking personal na pinanunuan. I am the chairman of this working group. Kasama natin ang ES, ang Executive Secretary, mga kalihim ng Department of Energy, Department of Transport, ang DSWD, ang Department of Agriculture, ang Department of Finance.
Oh my God, all hands on deck on this. Damn.
Sabay-sabay ang galaw ng buong pamahalaan para mabilis, para malinaw, at walang ahensyang
Unified package for livelihoods, industry, food, and transport.
ban lamang
Damn.
nagtutulungan. Everything is, before I'm sure you will ask questions, or you will have, some people will say, what are thinking about this? Are we thinking about that? Are we going to do this? Are we going to do that? The way I have to answer that questions, nothing is off the table.
Yep.
We are looking at
Right answer.
every
Right answer.
we can do. And so whatever suggestion that has been brought to us, whatever idea that has have come up with, we are examining it very, very closely in great detail to see if it is going to be advantageous to our people. At dahil kuminsan, ay pag tinatanong natin, dahil ang tanong, hindi kung ito ay maaaring gawin, kundi kung ito ba ang pinakamabilis at pinaka-epektibong makakatulong sa taong bayan. So every suggestion, every idea that has been brought to us, that we have come up with, we look at it in detail and we say, ito ba ang kaagad ng taong bayan? And that is ay sa mga kapangyarihan na ibinigay ng Executive Order 110, mas marami na tayong magagawa at mas mabilis na ang magiging aksyon ng pamahalaan. Papabilis ng Department of Energy ang pagbili ng langis mula sa ibang bansa. Paiigtingin natin ang aksyon laban sa hoarding at sa mga nagsasamantala, hindi lang sa langis, kundi sa lahat ng pangunahing produkto. I think we made that warning very early on na huwag mag-hoarding at huwag mag-price gouging. Huwag silang nagsasamantala dito sa sitwasyon. And we will enforce that rule very, very soon. And again, to those who are thinking about it, hindi nyo na kailangan gawin because we have a sufficient supply of oil, we have sufficient supply of food. So, sa pagkain, sa pamasahe, lahat po ito ay maaari nating matignan. Today, halimbawa, maaari nang makialam ang pamahalaan sa supply at presyo ng kuryente para hindi ito masyadong magmahal. Dahil that's the authority that the EO in its declaration of a energy emergency provides the executive.
Okay, then.
Beginning today, over 1.4 million drivers and units will start receiving fuel and financial assistance on top of the 120,000 who have already been served by the DSWD.
Okay.
Abangan din ninyo ang tupad para sa mga super na pinaigting natin na service contracting para sa ating transport sector.
Yep, basically, jeepney drivers are the ones who are very much making good use of the diesel because they transport the most of us around, okay? Which is why, because of price hikes on oil and gas and everything in diesel, basically there are now transport strikes. There are transport strikes in progress because they cannot easily afford that diesel, which is bad, very bad.
These are supports that we are hoping to bring, that we are going to bring to those who are most affected by this situation. Nais kong maging malinaw tungkol sa aming prioridad. Hindi natin kontrolado ang presyo ng langis sa mundo. Yan ang katotohanan na ating hinaharap. Ngunit ang hindi maaring mangyari ay maramdaman ng bawat Pilipino ang buong bigat nitong mga pangyayari na wala naman silang kinalaman.
That's right. We don't need to feel the heavy consequences of the war that was caused in the Middle East, okay? All we gotta do is put Donald Trump on a stake, on a very tall stake. Him and Benjamin Netanyahu, all right?
Isa lamang pamantayan. Agarang pinakamabilis at direktang mararamdaman ng ordinaryong Pilipino, hindi bukas, hindi sa susunod na linggo, ngayon, sa pagkain, sa pamasahe, sa kuryente, sa araw-araw na gastos ng pamilya, yan ang mga hakbang na aming inuuna. Para sa ating mga kababayan, ito po ang ginagawa ng inyong pamahalaan. Maraming salamat po. Magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat.
Thank you very much to our President, Ferdinand Marcos Jr. That concludes.
There we go, guys. That concludes the president's address. Basically, it's done. Over. Get out. Not much to actually say about that because let's just be real. It is the least that the government can do, okay? It is definitely the least that the government can do. Basically, adapt to all the situation and just make sure that everyone's not entirely feeling everything, except if there are gas price hikes, the ones who are directly affected get to feel it first. But if we're commuters, we're also feeling it because I've been seeing videos. Okay, I've been seeing videos on TikTok. Let's just be real. They are hard time finding transport by themselves as they go home from their shifts. Okay, It is sad that this is actually happening in the Philippines right now. Okay, but all we got to do is just move forward, see what government can actually do for us, basically, and hope that this direction that we're actually taking keeps being sustained. Because, as far as I'm concerned, the only way that this actually all stops is if we get the ample supply that we need, and basically that's making sure that Iran is no longer under threat. Okay, Iran at this time is still limiting the number of ships going through the Strait of Hormuz because it is still under threat. So they're making sure to secure everything in Iran. But right now, as Trump and Netanyahu still keep pounding Iran, insisting that there are nuclear weapons inside Iran when in fact there's none, we're not going to see a resolution anytime soon. Probably unless Iran is able to take a real shot at Washington directly. I mean, if that's possible at all. But Iran is on self-defense, full self-defense entirely. They're not sending ships. They are not sending ships to the United States. No, they are on full self-defense entirely. This was an immature move entirely at the United States and Israel. Entirely. They have got to stop doing their own agendas and just focus on just fixing this. But how can they? They don't even look at it in the mirror. So the resolution that we're seeking, it's not going to come anytime soon. And the Philippines will keep continuing the consequences to war. And finally, I'm just going to say, we need Trump removed out of power immediately.